You guys remember Among Us?
You sussy bata.
During COVID, this was one of those games that was just right place, right time. It was a social deduction game that you could play online. It was the perfect game to play in COVID, and honestly, it's pretty underrated for how big of a pop culture staple it has become. This game was massive. Like, it has affected me so much that I cannot look at this trash can at my school the same way. But as the lockdown slowed down, the game slowly died off.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
But who knew taking a kinda dead game platform and a kinda dead game would be so amazing? I mean, kinda. It's not perfect. Why am I reviewing this? Didn't God of War come out? Back to the video. When I saw this game was dropping on Quest 2, wait, what's it called? Oh yeah, I'm not calling it that. I wasn't really excited. I was more excited to play Gotham Knights, and then, oh my gosh, what in the world happened?
Wait till you see the... No. Look at the top of his head.
Me and the boys took one good look at that dumpster fire and said, let's play Among Us. So $10 later, a quick skip and a jump into a lobby, and oh my gosh.
That's how white.
It's white. It's the man. You trying to catch these hands, man? Yeah.
It's amazing. The absolute chaos, the ridiculousness of the entire lobby put on the forefront, the yelling, the profanity flying throughout the entire lobby, squeakers, grown adults, people speaking different languages. It's amazing. Remember when Tesla said that they wanted to add proximity chat to the cars and traffic? That's what this is like. Among Us VR has led to some of the most fun moments that I have had playing a multiplayer game in a while. This game is flying way under the radar. I wonder why, but I feel that I need to dive in and give this game some love because I have not laughed this hard playing a game in a while. First off, social interaction. This game opened up so many hilarious moments and things happening just by adding voice chat alone. When it came to the first Among Us, unless you were in a Discord call, you were not talking to anyone else you were playing with. You had this chat button, and sure it worked, but come on, have you ever tried to play public lobbies? It's an absolute nightmare. Now, I'm not saying that Among Us VR is better when it comes to actually solving the crime and who did what, but it's 1,000,000% better. It's just more fun. It's hilarious to get back to the center of the meeting just to witness absolute insanity break out as two crewmates immediately start pointing at each other. Among Us breeds people being at each other's throats, which makes the social interaction part of it even better. Single-handedly adding voice chat and movement and seeing how people point and yell makes the game way more dynamic, and honestly completely changes the game. I haven't even talked about the gameplay changes. The mere use of voice chat for me has made the game way more alive. Every time I hop into a lobby with my friends, or I'm just going in single with brand new people, I know it's going to be a good time. Every time you go in, it's going to be a brand new mystery. You never know what's going to happen. You know it's going to be absolutely insane, it's going to be hilarious, and it always keeps the game fresh, which ends up being really helpful due to how simple the gameplay and maps are. When it comes to how the gameplay has been translated over, it's very similar. Tasks are revamped so they are more optimized for VR while not being very different from the original tasks. The overall gameplay mechanics and core of the game is very similar to a normal flat screen Among Us. And the gameplay here works pretty well. Being a crewmate is fun, and I've played as the imposter as well, and the way to sabotage and kill is also very self-intuitive. That said, this game is not going to have a very high skill level. You know those videos of back in the day of like Critical or other streamers going nuts with their imposter plays by venting, going nuts, turn off lights, exact moment, insane kills? That is never going to happen in Among Us VR. While the gameplay works and is fun, it is not going to be as balanced as the original Among Us game is. First off, venting as an imposter is way more risky. The animation to get into the vents feels way longer, and unlike when playing on the flat screen version, you don't have as much peripheral vision when you're trying to look to see if you can get out of the vents with anyone seeing you. So sorry to all the pro level Among Us players, I don't think this is going to be it for you. But I really think this is where Among Us VR really differentiates itself from the flat screen version of Among Us, because they're both kind of going for separate things. Original Among Us is going for a fun social deduction game that is kind of serious in tone that wants you to solve who the imposter is, and it also encourages high skill gameplay at the same time. There are multiple maps in the game, so if you actually want to get really good, know all the nooks and crannies as imposter and be an actual god tier imposter, you can actually learn and try to be one. And on the other end, Among Us VR does not care at all about you getting good at the game. Among Us VR is more about the fun social interaction and the insanity of playing in VR. Among Us VR only has one map, and not even crazy gameplay because it's not focused on the gameplay. Cameras aren't even working because they haven't put a high skill ceiling into place yet, because that is not what they are targeting. They're actually targeting what works best in VR. VR as a medium has struggled with multiplayer games. When it comes to single player games, it is absolutely great. There have been some fantastic games for VR. Half-Life Alyx, the Boneworks games, the Star Wars Vader Immortal games are awesome. They know how to nail single player games because it doesn't require too many variables. You're just offline and they have the game loaded up and it just works. But with multiplayer VR games that are competitive, it's just harder to make sure everything feels fair. Playing games like Population 1 or Hyperdash can be kind of annoying at times when the lag runs out or when your headset starts getting a little wonky and sometimes it doesn't feel right. Sometimes it feels like others just have a competitive advantage because their software is running better that day. And overall, as much as I love playing online multiplayer games in VR, I don't think the competitive scene of VR multiplayer is there yet. So I think it's smart that Among Us VR decided to become its own thing and be different than the flat screen game, and instead of focus on the gameplay, focus more on the social interaction because that's what VR does better. It more follows games like Rec Room and VR Chat, games that are more about having fun, just having moments that are so stupid, so random that they could only happen in a somewhat face-to-face connection. I don't think VR will ever be the place for top-tier competitive gameplay, but I also don't think flat screen games are going to be the place for these fun social interaction games. This game isn't super deep, it has a lot of problems, but man, I've just had a blast playing it. It's not perfect, they need to fix the menus, just having the quick match really blows and it makes it a pain to join games with friends, but other than that, I don't have any complaints with the game. Am I really going to whine about the basic gameplay? No, and even single player in this game is more fun than normal Among Us because in VR you're always going to have new people to talk to and it's always going to be a blast. This game isn't super deep, it's just stupid fun and it was worth $10 at least. I mean, I've just had a blast with this game. I don't know if it's better than the original Among Us, I'll let that diehard Among Us crowd figure that out, but you know, for my 2 cents, this was a good time and worth the money if you have a VR headset. So, I'm going to give Among Us VR a 7 out of 10.
Why does my grandson keep talking about this Among Us? What? He's in his headset. Why in the world does he keep calling me a sussy baka? Carol, what is a sussy baka? No. Reagan's been dead for years.